be honest with you. I skipped. I skipped to the mailbox when I fully understood what I was bound to. Hey y'all, so I have been meaning to do some type of follow-up post my initial video in July. Just a quick background, how I even got to the point of denouncing, where I came in at, all that stuff that people are like, who is this girl? She just came in, warned everybody, dropped a few scriptures, well, a lot of scriptures, and dipped. So just a little bit of background. I am very passionate about freedom from these organizations, being free from these organizations, removing ourselves from these organizations. And so I think at this point, the more information, the better, right? So I crossed into HBCU Spelman, 2010. I crossed undergrad. I was a junior. I was a legacy. My mom is still an active member of AKA. She wasn't happy about the last video. She's not happy about this one. It hasn't even come out yet. This is truly what it means to follow God and leave everything else behind you. Because let's be clear, the boldness that it has taken to do the video, right? But the aftermath was my mom. The aftermath was really her. Other people had things to say, but but it was really her. And I think had I left the organization not being a legacy, it would have been a non-factor to the people around me. But it's the being a legacy part that I even felt moved to do the first video and to do this follow-up, because of the videos that I've seen on YouTube. There are not many people who are legacies, and that is definitely an added layer of pressure and an added layer of people that you feel responsible to. I was active all 13 years. Well, almost 13. It would have been 13 in 12 days? Child, what is math? But I had no breaks in service, right? 2021, I became a charter member, which makes it even more awkward, right? Because I'm like, that just happened. So as a charter member, I assumed the same position that my mom had for years. And so you can imagine that the people who watched the video and found out that I left were like, what do you mean? You've never fallen off of this, right? And I think it just shows God's mercy. It just shows how merciful he is, how much he pursues us, how much he loves us, because even in the thick of it, he can still pull you out. September 2022, I was moving to where I live now. And I was just going through a lot of things spiritually. I mean, sleep paralysis and nightmares. I had seizures growing up, and I didn't put that in the last video. But they were starting to come back, like mini seizures. And I just couldn't believe that these things that I thought were gone were back, right? So I started listening to deliverance prayers. And this pastor, Robert Clancy, because I didn't give him a shout out in the last one. He's from Australia. This man is not HBCU Greek life knowledgeable person for real, but he mentioned something that impedes healing to be college sororities and fraternities, and I paused and was like, what do you mean, sir, man? You don't even live here. And so that's when God reminded me of three things. I wrote my name into a book. And so I juxtaposed that to the book of life, which that alone was terrifying, right? Like, I'm here, but not here. He reminded me of the hymn that talks about the glory and honor of the sorority. And I'm like, oof, that's a lot. He reminded me of the pledge. And I just was repulsed. No matter how often I didn't say it, I always remembered it. So for it to come flooding back to me as this thing that I now know is completely blasphemous was wow. And I'm gonna be honest, like, I was always the kid who liked ritualistic things. I did not go to Catholic school, but I considered, because I'm like, oh, I like the blazers and the this, and that means this, and that means that, and everything has a deeper significance. I was into the occult without knowing that I was into the occult. I just was drawn to it, right? Not even realizing that in being a legacy and having parents that say, when my child grows up, she's going to be a this, that you are instilling things into them that they don't even, have words for. My cat really likes attention. I struggled with it And what I decided I was first going to do was not to say the pledge, right? And I told my mom immediately, and she was like, "Child, I ain't trying to hear that." So I decided what I'm going to do on my own is not say the pledge. I'm not going to sing the hymn. I couldn't take my name out the AK book, but I figured I would just I would never do another ritual. So I moved to where I live now, and everybody who was a part of my journey in moving here was an AKA. So I'm like, oh, well, God's like using them, and God will use anything for his glory. Say, I remember being invited to a Founders Day event in February here, and it's cold, in most places in February, at least where I live, it's definitely cold. And I remember we had to wear a dress and stockings. And it's funny, you would think I should know better, but I didn't understand why we had to wear a dress and stockings in February. And it turned out that there was a ritual. And so what I decided to do was attend Founders Day. But when it was time to do the rededication ritual, the last thing I was trying to do, considering I was just convicted, a few months prior, I left, right? I had to go to the bathroom. And so I would leave, and that thing was long, trying not to be, obvious, but I told myself I wasn't going to do any more rituals. So I left, came back. And then at the end of most AKA things, there is, they sing the hymn. And I said I was never going to sing about the glory and honor. I didn't want to consummate this event by singing the song. So I left again. And I realized I was just going to have to make a decision, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how to leave. I didn't know if it was that serious. I didn't know if I had to, if I could just bow out gracefully and just, just not go to things, or if I needed to say something officially, right? So the what God did, and he had me on a mission of cleaning out my house, right? I had so many things from past years. I hadn't had my own space in a while. I didn't realize I was heavily pursued by the marine kingdom. So I had so many shells and aquatic things. I was a little mermaid child and all that stuff. My environment was attacking me, essentially, in this new city. So many things had to go. But AKA just didn't occur to me as one of those things that I needed to remove from my space. And it wasn't until May, I think my mom was coming in town, and I felt this weird conviction, I don't want AKA stuff in my room. I just want it to be gone. And this is 3 months after my initial house cleaning, right? Spiritual house cleaning. Now, 3 months later, I'm like, I don't want this AKA shirt in my room. So I put everything in the guest room. All of a sudden, I'm moving things out the way, not even realizing that this was what Yah was doing. So the 3-day process of God taking me out of AKA is so amazing because I was not expecting it. Let's be clear. I did not wake up that day or any of those three. Well, the first day. I did not wake up the first day. It was second day thinking that this was going to be a thing, right? So the first day, I, without being too, whatever, I was trying to find somebody on YouTube who was going to verify that something that I peeped was also weird, right? I wanted someone to be like, oh, I saw that at that church and that was strange. So I was on YouTube trying to figure out if somebody was going to see the same thing that I saw. I'm being cryptic because this is not about that. So I'm just trying to focus. So I get onto YouTube and I come across this girl. I'm gonna say this girl, I don't know her, but Lala Jenkins page, and I had seen her before on YouTube. I wasn't looking for her though, but here she comes. I come across her page, and I think it may have been one of her videos about leaving Delta, right? And I was like, that's interesting. I don't even know why this even popped up, I'm not a Delta. What does this even mean? So I looked at the video, popped up. I scrolled down for whatever reason, well, God, and she had a link to a ministry that helps you to get out, right? And it was so interesting because I don't think anybody had linked this ministry before. So I go onto the website of the ministry. It's called Out From Among Them. Shout out to India. And I sent them a message and I was like, hey, I've been feeling some type of way since last September. I've been staying away from rituals and singing the songs and all this other stuff. But I don't know what to do. I don't know how to leave. I don't know what the steps are. Whatever. Now, mind you, I could have looked around in the website and figured out all the things that I was asking, but I didn't plan on doing this, is the point, right? I didn't go looking for this. So I go on with the rest of my day. I think it was 4th of July. And so I could have been doing anything but that, but that's what y'all would have me to do. And so the next day, looking for the same thing, I'm trying to find somebody on YouTube who's going to verify that they saw what I saw at the church service. Um, and so I get on there and she's up there again. Right. I'm like, I'm not even checking for Lala. Like, I wasn't looking for her videos at all. And so the video was about how people in fraternities and sororities are going to die soon, right? And I know it sounds like it's a clickbait, but one thing I really appreciated about that video is that she went to Ezekiel 9. A dollar is killed. And so she talks about how it all starts in the church, right? She, meaning Lala, was talking about how when Yahweh, when he judges his people for idolatry, he always starts in the church. And then a lot of, and of course, a lot of people who are in fraternities and sororities are active ministers, and parishioners, etc., of churches. And so let me tell you something. Again, I was not checking for this. I wasn't looking for it. I received it because Holy Spirit told me to receive it. But if any other spirit had been in and around me in my home, I would have been like, I don't want to watch this again. But I paid attention. And while she was talking, as much as I could find at one time, I just started throwing stuff in the trash. I threw it in the depths of the dumpster so that I could not get it out. I didn't need to be convinced anymore. It was crazy to me because I didn't wake up that day expecting that. Just like I didn't wake up the day before expecting that. I had already been sitting on it since September 2022. So, because I had all these emotions and I felt crazy, I reached out to the ministry again and was like, I can't believe I just threw this stuff in the trash. I don't know what mom's gonna say. I'm overwhelmed. And then I found their resources page. Lala had linked again to the video that I watched on the second day. And I found the letter. I found that there is a letter. I mean, of course, you need to personalize it, put your name and everything in it. But I found the letter that they essentially have written for you so that you can send it to your corporate office, whatever, and be done. But I didn't feel done. So there are lots of videos about deltas, or ex-deltas who left. So many. They reveal a lot of things about the rituals, demonic aspects of the rituals. But I didn't find many AKA videos that were doing that deep dive into why spiritually this was demonic. And I'm going to say it like that, demonic. But I went back to the ministry. There was a video called The Real Serious Matter. It was like five ex-AKAs. And by the time I finished watching that video, because Amber, who I talked about in the last video, she talks about having a dream and being before God and looking for her name in the book of life, and God telling her name was in the other book. And that's what God told me, right? So I was like, that's not a coincidence that I'm hearing this. She also talked about having a dream where it was the end of the world and everybody was kind of losing their mind and trying to get this and that. And her only thought was, I wonder if corporate office is open so that I can send this letter in. And it just showed me that there's too much at stake and we don't have a lot of time to be right with God. And I recorded myself putting that letter in the mail because, child, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't free in that moment. I was just elated. Yeah, that lasted for about a day because the next day, ironically, my mom was coming in town to go to an AKA conference, and the timing couldn't have been more awkward. It could not have been more awkward. It could not have been more awkward. It was horrible. So I finally heard back from India, from Out From Among Them, and God bless her. I mean, the ministry alone is a blessing, but the fact that she sat on the phone with me for hours, and my mom was here. She was here for a really long time, actually visiting. And India just talks to me for hours. She was so patient and she listened to me because there is a support system. And anybody who is trying to leave these organizations, if you are a legacy and you're like, I just don't think anybody's going to get it, child, find me any way that you can. We can talk about it because we need support. We need support in making decisions that are for God that may go against the status quo of our families and whatever. And so life post AKA beyond my mom has been great. it's been great. So updates, if you guys want updates, I'm sure you guys have 2 questions, 2 main like things you would like to know. What is the relationship like with my mom now? And how did that tell X-Line sisters? So I'm gonna start with the X-Line sisters. I was on the line of 44. You don't need math and percentages to understand that 12 plus years post becoming an AKA, we are not talking to each other all the time. So I decided to tell 1, 2, 3 up front. Child, I don't remember. I told some people before I posted the video because I felt like we were better than that. I should let them know. And the responses were what they were. I mean, I've always been the one who marched to the beat of my own drum, although this is not my own drum, this is the word of God, but you know, whatever. And so it was like, okay, you know, girl, if that's great for you, then go ahead and do that. And I don't say that in a bad way, that's just what it was, and that's fine. I feel like we have picked up where we left off. There are people who see you as more than that. And so I appreciate the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 X-Line sisters that I still communicate with as though nothing happened. You know, shout out. And you know, the funny thing is that those are the ones I was talking to post college anyway, so it works out. And then my mom, we didn't talk for a while. We didn't talk for a really long time. And I had to normalize that because this was something that she was going to need to understand. She felt blindsided, although we briefly talked about it in September. I was on the fence. I wasn't completely convicted. So I understand being like, all of a sudden, she don't want to be a member no more, no more. I understood that. And so we didn't talk for a while, and now we do. And so, you know, for everybody who is trying to figure out what it's going to be like, it's a case by case situation, but you have to be convicted. Like I said, there's a lot at stake. We are in perilous times. More obscene things are to be seen, unfortunately. And it's just not the time to be on the wrong side of things. It's just not the time to be convicted against something and continue in that pursuit. And so I'm out the game. It doesn't feel weird. You know, it's not like I'm constantly running into people who are expecting me to be an AK. But it is what it is. So that's it. I don't know. Y'all let me know if you want more of these follow up. Leave me a comment. I only got like 6 subscribers, but leave me a comment if you want me to continue to talk about this. If you want more updates. You know, I got subscribers, which made me feel like God wants me to continue to do videos, and that's fine. So just let me know what you're interested in. Let me know. Peace.